Welcome back to the Juan Palomino Breakthrough Podcast. My name is Jenna, and I'm here with my husband, Juan.
Hola, everybody. Episode 32.
Yeah.
Excited to be back.
Yeah, so today we're leaning into something, especially for those who just love deeply. You know what happens when love can turn into control?
Love in control.
There's that fine line, right, between caring and trying to manage, fix, or protect the people that we love most. But sometimes what feels like love is actually fear in disguise.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, we have models in our lives of what we think what love is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you said there is so true. Like, we can love so deeply. Let me say it this way. We can love someone so deeply, Jenna, and we don't want to lose it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think every one of us has dealt with loss in our lives. It could be a person, it could be a thing, it could be a job, it could be, oh my gosh, it could be a pet. Right? You lose a pet. I mean, that's hard, right? You invest a lot of time and money, and you love this pet, and all of a sudden they have shorter lifespans than we do. And we've all done it. We're guilty. We spend whatever money we can possible to fix the dog.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Our puppy, her name's Olive. If she gets sick, darn it, those doctors take advantage of us, because then they hand you a bill and they tell you it's going to cost this much. And you're like, oh my gosh. And we try to fix what's wrong with our puppy because we want our puppy to survive. We want our puppy to be healthy. But I mean, we're talking more than obviously animals. I mean, and again, hope nobody gets offended by me saying that, but I believe that a human life is more valuable than a pet.
Okay.
I said it. There it is.
Now you're just going off the rails. But I think what
Control.
you're trying to say is, like, even though our intentions are good and we tell ourselves, I'm just trying to help, or I'm protecting them.
Yeah.
Right? And that can go from like a parent or like an adult child with a parent.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember this. I remember a long time ago. This was like 7 years ago. I had a conversation. A woman called me over the phone, and she's like, "Hey, Pastor Juan." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Are you at the office? I want to, I'm struggling with, my son, and he's an addict, and I've tried everything and anything to try to help him and, try to get him back on his feet, and, try to encourage him to go get a job. I've told him to, go to this meeting and that meeting and do all these things." And she's like, "And I'm at my last resort. And so are you available so that I can bring him?" And I was like, and I want him to talk to you. And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Bring him. Let's talk. I'd love to meet him and pray for him." Jenna, can I tell you something? I met this lady at my office, and you're not going to believe this, but this was a shock to me. The lady was like in her late 70s, probably close to 80, or in her 80s, but I figure late 70s, 80s. And her son was in his 40s.
Wow.
And this dude still lived under her roof, had a drug issue. She confessed that, she didn't say I'm confessing this, but she said, I've taken him to job interviews. I'm like sitting there, and I felt embarrassed for the guy, because I was like, dude, you're 40 something years old, and you're still causing trouble and drama to your mom, who is a single parent. His dad had passed away and stuff. And I get that. Look, we grieve and we mourn, and there's loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this, there's stuff that has been done to us. There's trauma that we go through. There's obviously emotional, physical, verbal abuse, sexual abuse. I don't know. All I'm saying is I don't know the situation specifically, for this guy. But I was like, man, after having a hour conversation with this guy, I knew that he was just taking advantage of his mom, of her emotions, of her wanting to try to help him. One thing is helping, and the other thing is enabling people, enabling someone that can honestly do things on their own, that can go to counseling, that can, gosh, create a job like application, a resume, and go find a job, right? To get off the couch and start working on fixing his own life.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, the point that I'm making there, because we're talking about love and control, the other part, if I look at the mom, I go, what happened in her life that made her believe that she was the only source for him to get well, for him to get better?
Yeah, and I think if we're honest, it's often fear, right? Fear that they're going to fail, fear that we'll get hurt again, or that things won't go the way that we want.
But here's the deal. That guy, I guarantee you, was manipulative.
Oh, for sure.
He was manipulating her and saying, or probably throwing guilt at her, saying, oh, well, it's your fault, and, dad's fault, or you never did this, you never did that, blah, blah, blah. And so here's this 70-something-year-old, 80-something-year-old lady dealing with that guilt with a 40-something-year-old son, and not able to set a hard boundary on him to say, get out of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to fix you, and I'm tired of you living here and not helping yourself or helping me out. And so love can become also a, I don't know, it could be a debilitating thing, because love can turn into, like you said, control, but it could turn into, I need love so much that I'm going to enable this person to stay where they're at because I need love desperately.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be loved, whether, right? Because this lady, for example, I lost my husband and all I have is my son. That obviously reminds me of his dad. And if I don't have him living with me here, then I feel lost myself, or I feel like, I am not worthy. I feel worthless. I feel whatever. So that's why codependency is such a crazy thing, because guess what? They both need each other
Mm-hmm.
to fulfill, to feel fulfilled, to feel purposeful,
Mm-hmm.
right? She needs him to feel like she's on purpose, and he needs her financially and emotionally and physically, and
because he feels
whatever.
like it's owed to him, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can be like that. So going back to like love, and when it turns into control, coming from a leadership standpoint, right? I think a lot of times it can come into not duplicating yourself as a leader because, you think that you could just do it best, right? Like, I don't trust that you're going to be okay if I don't step in.
Yeah. Can I say something about love and leadership?
Yeah.
I think when leaders fail, actually, let me say it this way. I believe that leaders fail to love their followers, quote unquote, right? When it comes to leadership, your employees, if you're a business owner, whatever, if you're in management, those that you lead, when we love ourselves too much, there's this kind of narcissistic trait that leaders take on, where I know how to do it. I know how to take care of it. I know how to do it best.
Be faster.
It'll be faster. I don't have to bother anybody, which is another issue. I think we love ourselves too much. I think we rob people. I said this earlier today at a training that we had of leaders, because we're training up leaders all the time. And I said, when we do that, we are robbing people the opportunity to grow. We rob people the opportunity to share their gifts, to share their talents. And in the church specifically, when we don't raise volunteers to take on roles that we think that, we're the only ones that could do it best or better, we're robbing these folks of the gifts and talents that God has given them so that they can grow into the leaders that God intended them to be.
Yeah, and it's the same thing for kids, right? Sometimes I think early on, I felt like loving my kids meant controlling every outcome and protecting them from every mistake. But then what I realize is that when you control everything, you don't just limit their pain, you limit their potential. Like they have to
So
go and
good.
make the mistakes on their own. They have to learn from that.
Yeah.
Because growth always involves risk, right? And so I think a lot of us can relate, especially to those who grew up in chaos.
Mm-hmm.
When you've lived through uncertainty, control can feel like safety.
Yeah.
Right? When your
it's like,
life is out of control,
Yeah.
you control what you think you can.
Yeah. So growth always involves risk. And so yes, I love that. We can love with our own insecurities when we love someone so much and we don't want to lose it. What do? We
Do
control
everything, yeah.
everything. We control all the outcomes. We want them to be so safe that we smother the person, right?
Love
You
bomb.
you can love bomb them, smother them, and then all of a sudden, it's like a child before they're 2 years old and start walking. You're in control of everything, right? You're feeding the baby. You're bathing the baby. You are changing the baby. You name it, doing everything, and all of a sudden they start walking around and they're like, it feels like they don't need you.
Mm-hmm.
And for the insecure mom, that could be like, wait a minute, you don't need me anymore. And then they go to school,
Well, even like,
and you drop them off, and then they're like, later on, they're what, 7, 8, 9 years old, and they're like, don't kiss me in front of my friends. You're like, wait a minute.
it's funny because you had a friend that texts you. He has a toddler, or maybe he's a little bit older, but he was like, I'm frustrated because my son doesn't want to wear what I have picked out for him today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it all starts there too. Is like, here's the outfit that you're gonna wear. And then they eventually get to that point where they're like, I want to choose what I want to wear.
Sure.
And we have to release things as simple as that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's crazy the things that they choose to wear, right? But you have to let them.
It's freedom.
Yeah.
But again, I think it goes back to what are the insecurities that I am struggling with that I call manipulation. I can call controlling love. It's not.
Yeah. Would you say it's a coping mechanism?
100%. Yeah. I need to control the outcome. I need to control this or manipulate that in order for me to feel loved. Does that make sense? Because if you're out and about and you're doing this and my mind goes crazy to think like, well, you said you were going to be gone for an hour, but you were gone for an hour and a half. You were gone for 2 hours. Okay, one thing is communication, but the other thing is like going, whoa, wait a minute. Like if that drives you up a wall or drives you crazy, there's something in you that's wrong.
Well, that's why I have you on Find My Friends. Just kidding.
No, you're not.
Well, yeah, of course you are.
Like, wait a minute.
Phone calls, but
you heard it here on the Juan Palomino Breakthrough Podcast, everybody. You love me that much, but I was talking to someone that we know that will remain nameless, right? And she was going through a very, very, very tough separation right now from her marriage. And, this is, she's been married for quite some time now. And, she has drawn closer to God. So when she met her husband of 10 plus years, they met in college and they obviously fell in love. And truth is that she was a different person in college. Right? Things happen. You may have grown up as a Christian, and we hear stories all the time. You grow up with your parents' faith, their religion, and then what happens is you go out into the world, you explore, and you go further away from God because, you want to go taste and see, and then you figure out, hey, the world doesn't have anything for me except for trouble and whatever, sin. But anyways, she met her husband, they got married, they fell in love, got married, and they started having kids, great careers, both of them. Everything's up and to the right until the Lord convicts her heart. And she is like drawn to come back to her faith, to her roots. Well, he's not. He's like, what is going on? Like, I met this woman, this gal that I fell in love with, who was a wild, fun, quote unquote, right? All this, like, this different person. And now all of a sudden, she's at church 3 days, 4 days a week. And, hanging out with Christians all the time. And he's like, what the heck is going
Having them
on?
over at their house.
And yeah, people are going over her house that are, filled with the Holy Spirit. And he's like, get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And he just want nothing to do with God,
Mm-hmm.
nothing with Jesus. And so that drives a wedge in their relationship, and which leads to now separation. But now he's like, listen, you need to get rid of your religion. You need to get rid of, going to church, and the kids are not going to go, like all this crazy stuff, all in the name of what? Love.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't love, everybody. That is not love. That is control. That is, hey, I want things to go back the way they used to be. And, both of us living in the world and sinning, and let's get rid of this Jesus stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that this guy now is controlling everything. And so that's where my friend is. And so we pray and pray. We're praying not only for her, but we're praying for him
Mm-hmm.
to come to faith, to know Jesus. But there has to be boundaries as well. There has to be boundaries that she has to set in order to put herself in a place where she doesn't feel safe right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Being in a household with someone that, is just controlling everything, being manipulative and doing whatever he wants. And he's blaming her for it all.
Yeah. And I think when we get hurt like that, we learn to put up walls, right? So we don't get hurt again.
Yeah.
And then we don't trust people. And then we just try to control everything around us, right?
Yeah.
Because to trust somebody means I might get hurt again.
Well, again, it goes back to vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
When you are completely honest, you're completely vulnerable, you're opening yourself up to be hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only way you can fully love somebody. That's the only way that you can fully be loved.
Mm-hmm.
If you're holding back anything, then you're not fully being loved. You can't fully love someone if you're not being vulnerable, if you're not being fully open and transparent. In other words, being vulnerable to the point where you go, I'm going to love this person so much that I'm willing to allow that person to hurt me. And can we be honest? Like, what relationship, honestly, that you are in where you're not going to hurt one another?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because we're sinners. We all hurt one another. But I think that we carry those wounds from our childhood. I know we all had a dysfunctional family growing up. We carry wounds from our past into the relationships we are currently in. And we can be very guarded if, again, we've talked about in many podcasts, if we're not forgiving people, like Christ has forgiven us.
Mm-hmm.
We got to remember that, Jesus said that, you got to forgive, for you've been forgiven much, so forgive others. If not, he won't forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's important, that the only way that we can love is by forgiving those that have hurt us. Because if not, we're going to love, but very weird. We're going to love by manipulating, by controlling, by being guarded. It becomes a business contract.
Yeah. And that means that we need to surrender the outcome of whatever it is to God.
Oh, now you said surrender. That's a big word.
And that it's scary when you've had to survive by staying in control.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So imagine going from a place, Jenna, where you're always on survival mode, and then you have to surrender. How do you do that? It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, we've met with actually somebody that reminds me that she had always had to survive, and then, she got into this marriage and she hadn't healed from her past. I think she was like a teenage mom, and she was living on the streets with her kids for a while. And so that was real survival.
Yep.
Right? Like literal survival. But she had built up these walls because of where she was at.
And the bad part is that one of the reasons, many reasons why she ended up there is because there were men in her life, previous relationships, that were selfish, that used the word love, which really meant lust, which only took advantage of her physically, of her body, and used her. And so there's a confusion now of really understanding what love is, right? Every single person that we talk to has a different definition of what love is. It's sad. because it's based upon what people have said in their lives or the example that they've set in their lives and what they've endured, what they've gone through. Imagine all your life that you have a parent that tells you, I love you, but, and that but is many things. I love you, but you have to do this. I love you, but you have to do that. I love you if you do this for me. So it becomes like very contractual or very one-sided, and that's not what love is. Then all of a sudden you go, how can I accept God's love in my life? And when we think, oh, I need to do these things in order to earn love, if I don't do this or have my act together, or if I don't, clean myself up, if you will, then God's not going to love me. Instead of just accepting that God loves you.
One of the questions that I love that we've done in one of our workbooks is, what in your life do you have control over?
It's a great question.
I love that question because it really makes you think like, well, nothing. I really don't have control of anything, right? Like even driving on the car, driving in the car,
on the freeway,
right? Like, sure, you have control maybe of your car driving, but you don't have control of the people around you.
Right.
And
or how about those that love to fly a plane or, take a trip on a plane? Like, you don't have any control. You're literally just on the ride and just saying, man, I hope the pilot isn't drunk. I hope the pilot doesn't fall asleep.
Right.
And
you could control every aspect of that trip that you're going on, from what time we're going to get to the airport, who's taking us to the airport, what time the flight's going to be, what airline are we flying, what seats are we going to have. You can make all of those choices, but the second
you can't control any of them anyways.
Plane,
you can't control any of them. And then on top of that, you can't control that the engines are going to actually work all the way.
Okay. I'm going on a flight this week. We don't need to go too far into that. Thank you.
Lord, take the wheel. Lord, take the wheel.
But, when you let go, it doesn't mean that you stop caring. It just means that you stop caring what isn't yours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, like, control was never love's job. Love protects, yes, love guides, but love also releases.
And that's not a common theme of love. We don't think of it that way. So example would be back to, our friend that is struggling in her marriage that's separated.
Yeah.
There is some wisdom there in saying, you know what? I'm going to release my marriage to God. I'm going to release trying to control things. I need to release that. Yeah, everything I've tried, everything that I've manipulated, everything that I've done in my marriage. Again, there's a common theme there. Is I have tried. I have done all this, and it's only led to where we're at today.
Yeah, for sure.
So if it's love, you got to release it. You got to release your marriage. You got to release this person to the Lord and trust that if it's God's will, again, one more time, if it's God's will, then you guys will get back together. That God will bring you back together. That God will unify or reunify you. But it's going to take, sometimes it takes time.
Perfect example is,
you got to release it.
When my dad was struggling, right, with drugs, I would give him an ultimatum because I thought that was love. Like, either you do the drugs or you have a relationship with me, but you can't do both. And I was trying to control the situation of like, this is how it's going to go. Like, you have one choice. It's either me or the drugs, but you can't have both. And I wouldn't win that battle because I'm not in control.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in control either.
And can I ask you this? What was the actual reason you would set that ultimatum?
Because I loved him, because I wanted him to get healthy, of course.
And you, in your heart's desire was like, okay, he's going to choose me.
And the way that it damaged our relationship, because I had the expectation that he would choose me and he didn't.
Ouch.
And I just set myself up for failure. But the second that I released him of that and gave him to the Lord and just loved him where he was at, like, oh my gosh, it made such a difference.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
so how did that mend your relationship? How do you think that, because you released him, you released him to God, how did that work out?
Well, yeah, we made amends.
Yeah.
I didn't have this pressure on him to get clean anymore. And he started coming to our church once in a while. And yeah, he realized that he didn't have to do anything to earn my love. Right.
And he's the one that needed all the love.
Big time.
Right? Because we've learned that, most people that struggle with addictions, they do it to hurt themselves. They do it to it's like a self-punishment. And obviously to escape the pain that they're dealing with, to escape the trauma and the hurt that they've gone through.
Yeah,
it's a coping skill. It's a coping mechanism, an unhealthy one to say the least, but, their addiction impacts everyone negatively.
100%.
So that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. But, that's such a picture of how God loves us.
Yeah.
Like, he's patient and he's kind and he gives us room to fail,
He doesn't control us. He doesn't manipulate us.
Right.
He gives us, free will.
And grace to come home again.
Yes.
And he just loves us without condition. And that's hard to do in our fleshly bodies. I was giving my dad conditions. It was like whether it's either you're on these drugs or you're off the drugs or relationship with me. But those are my conditions. And once I released those, obviously I had boundaries still with him, right? We're like, okay, well, if you're going to continue to do this, like,
you can't come around high.
Yeah, you can't
around
be
your
around
grandkids
my kids.
or
They can't go with you anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
there's some pretty stiff boundaries here that if you
That's
want to
good.
enjoy life with us, then there are steps that you have to take. But I still love you.
Yeah.
And then when he got cancer, then I was able to go with him to his chemo treatments and enjoy time with him instead of having this. If I stayed stuck in that, it's either the drugs or me, then we wouldn't have had a relationship at all.
Yeah.
And then he would have gotten sick and I would have had a lot of regrets for sure.
Do you feel like having that honest conversation with him about, the drugs and how it impacted you and how you didn't feel safe when he was around, when he was high and around the kids? Do you think that honesty still honored him? Like you honored him in that because it made him really see that, hey, Dad, like, I love you, but this is impacting all of us, because there's this saying, right? Like there's honor in being honest with people, because a lot of us, when we're not honest and we lie to people, what I mean by that is this: we say the truth behind their backs, and we go, man, I wish my dad would get healthy. I wish he would stop using drugs, this and that, and I would bring the kids around him more. I'd love he would do this and that. So you tell everyone that except them, and that's dishonoring because you're gossiping about them.
Yeah.
And so there's a saying in recovery where we go, not even recovery, but just honoring and loving people is be honest with them, because the truth may hurt. No, the truth heals. The truth doesn't hurt. It heals people. And you, by being honest with them, you honor them in that. And then that tells the person, oh, okay, if I need to be around my family and I want to see my grandkids and I want to spend time with my daughter, then I need to be well.
Yeah, for sure.
Or at least be sober.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And, the great thing about him was that he was like an amazing grandpa, right?
Yeah, he was. Love you, Lito.
Yeah. And he wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Yeah.
If our kids wouldn't have had the opportunity to love their grandpa.
Sure.
They don't know what his struggles were.
Right.
They just know him as Grandpa Lito.
Yeah. And they remember all the McDonald's trips, all the Baskin Robbins trips.
Absolutely. As grandparents should, right?
I love it.
And so releasing that and giving it over to God and like, okay, God, take this over. I can't control it. And I've hurt myself trying to control this situation the whole time. And when I released it, it was such a bigger impact. Although he didn't get clean, he was still able to make an impact in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's where freedom lives. It's not in managing the outcomes, but in trusting the one who holds them.
Whew, come on, preach it, girl. Yeah, we got to trust Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that you did, because in that, I'll tell you from my seat, I saw, you guys, really rekindle your relationship.
Mhm.
I saw God restore it, reconcile, and it was so great to see him come visit. It was great to have him hang out and be sober, and honestly, he never treated me bad,
Mhm.
and at first it was hard for him, obviously, to have me as his son-in-law, because he's like, who the heck is this guy, right? I had kids and all that stuff already, and
Well, yeah, I was his baby girl too.
yeah,
It's as a dad.
yep. But as I treated you with love and respect, and he saw that, he came around, and then he loved me. I could say he truly loved me. He treated me well, and I'm so grateful, for the time that we had with him.
Yeah. Well, that's today's.
Love and control. Release
Yeah.
it. Release that control to the Lord.
And maybe from this episode, you recognized a pattern of control, or you're realizing how fear has been shaping your love. So we want you to just take a moment to pause
Mm-hmm.
and ask God, where am I trying to take your place?
Whew.
And then just listen.
Ugh.
That's key, right? Because
Mhm.
I mean, even myself, I always find myself just talking in prayer, and then I don't listen enough, or I give God a timeline of how soon he needs to respond to me.
I want to share with you guys a scripture, Psalm 46:10. Be still
Mm.
and know that I am God. Maybe you can meditate on that and maybe repeat it over and over and say, and let God speak to you as you repeat it, and just, be still and know that I am God. Let that resonate for you, and know that him being God, he's the one that's fully in control. You can surrender the people that you love, to him, release them to him, and know that whatever they do at the end of the day, you have God that loves you so much that he created you, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and that through the midst of whatever you've gone through, God sees it. You are seen. God loves you. And in the stillness, again, know that God is in control of all of it, that you can release it to him and trust him.
Yeah. So next week, we're going to dive into a topic that connects with this one.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be talking about the silent war between grace and guilt.
Wow. Yeah, grace and guilt. It's
Yeah,
a big one.
it's a fine line, because sometimes even after we let go, guilt tries to pull us right back in.
That's like, the person that forgives somebody but then feels guilty.
Yeah.
No, serious. We're going to talk about
I feel
that.
like we just talk about codependency in all different ways in this, but
because it's a transformer. I'm gonna call codependency a transformer.
oh my God.
It's an interesting thing, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But you don't
Looking
want to
forward
miss
to it.
next week, so we will see you then.
Yeah, keep listening, and remember, you can have a breakthrough.
You can.